types of this vaccine. So you've got Gardasil, Gardasil 9, and Cervarix?
Cervarix.
Okay.
Cervarix,
So there's three different ones. Okay, so what's the key differences between these three?
So there are a couple of key differences. Gardasil and Gardasil 9 are both manufactured by Merck. Gardasil was the original HPV vaccine, the first one approved by the FDA. And it contains virus-like particles for 4 types of human papillomavirus, 2 of which are associated with cervical cancer and 2 of which are associated with warts. Gardasil 9 contains 9 types of HPV virus-like particles, 7 of which are thought to be associated with cancer, and then the same 2 that are associated with the warts. Those both have an aluminum adjuvant in it called AHS. It's got a very long name that's easier to just say AHS, but it's an aluminum-containing adjuvant that's highly immunogenic. It's supposed to really boost your immune response to the vaccine.
Mm-hmm.
Cervarix is from GlaxoSmithKline, and it contains only 2 types of HPV virus-like particles. It contains the same 2 that were in the original Gardasil that are thought to be associated with cervical cancer. And it also has an aluminum-containing adjuvant, but it's a different adjuvant than the one that's in Gardasil. You can no longer get either Cervarix or original Gardasil in the United States. Glaxo pulled out of the U.S. market, I want to say a year or 2 ago, and Gardasil has been replaced by Gardasil 9 in the U.S. But in other parts of the world, both Cervarix and the original Gardasil are still available and still in use.
Well, in my mind, the fact that there's 3 different ones tells me that maybe they fast-tracked it through the system. Do you think?
So Gardasil, the original Gardasil, was originally fast-tracked, and that's actually a technical FDA term.
Oh, really?
For how some vaccines and other drugs are shepherded through the FDA approval licensing process. And what that means, it goes along with another type of review called priority review, but it shortens by several months the time period during which the FDA reviews and makes decisions about licensing a vaccine. And it also allows the manufacturer to submit data to FDA on a rolling basis rather than waiting until the completion of the clinical trials to submit the data.
Mm-hmm. Well, this is such a highly... Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry. I was going to say, so Gardasil literally was fast-tracked. Both Gardasil 9 and Cervarix went through a different process, but they've both been on the market for several years now as well.
Mm-hmm. Well, there's people out there listening that are thinking this. Why should readers take you seriously? Shouldn't they listen to their doctors and the FDA instead of you?
So we are neither doctors nor scientists. That is true. And we don't give medical advice in the book. We don't have any recommendations for people in the book. We encourage people to talk to their doctor about these issues. In fact, we encourage people, and people have purchased copies of the book to give to their doctors. We've come at this because we're not we're not at the FDA. We are not scientists. We are not doctors. We come to this with, I feel like, an outside perspective. And we worked very closely with some of the leading scientists in the world to do research and to talk about these issues and to look at what is actually there when you dig into the FDA documents and when you dig into the science, when you dig into information, from the National Cancer Institute.
This book, as I said, it's so fascinating. Japan pulling the plug, talking about Japan will not administer this vaccine to its people. Why not?
Well, you can, I believe, technically still get the vaccine in Japan, but it's been derecommended. It's not on their recommended vaccination list.
Wow.
So you would have to, my understanding is you would have to private pay for that. And it's an expensive vaccine.
Yeah, let's talk about you have to have 3 doses of it, right? And isn't it something like $175 or $150 per dose?
So it depends on the vaccine and it depends on your age for how many doses you need. Mm-hmm. Younger children under 15 can have 2 doses of the vaccine. But if you're over 15, you need 3 because it's just, according to the manufacturers, it's the differences in how people in those different age groups mount immune responses and how many doses are needed. But it's very expensive. It's about $170. I think that Gardasil is about $120, $150 a dose. Gardasil 9 is over $200 a dose.
Well, gosh, there's so much I want to ask you. It's just endless. So what do you think about the mandates for the HPV vaccine?
I am really concerned about mandating the vaccine for a number of reasons. One, we don't have really very long-term either effectiveness or safety data on the vaccines. It's only been out for about 10 years. Mm-hmm. We know that there are a lot of reports of injuries. Children who are getting it now, we don't know how long it's going to last. If you're 9 years old or 10 or 11 years old, and the best we have is that it may be effective, 8 to 10 years at this point, they think. Those kids are only, 21 or so when it wears off. No one's recommended boosters yet. We don't know if that's coming. But the injuries are also very concerning. And we don't know yet who is really susceptible to those injuries. So requiring this vaccine for, an infection, really, that is not readily, it's not airborne. It's not that readily transmissible. It's concerning to require every school-age child to get the vaccine.
Yeah. Well, and I believe that Mary Holland was saying that there's 1 in 500 children, according to the information that we do have about the vaccine, that 1 in 500 children that have been administered it have had an injury or even resulting in death or suicide because the pain in their lives, both physically and mentally, emotionally, from having their health destroyed at a very young age. A lot of these young people were athletes and just healthy, normal kids that living their life and their health was basically wiped out. What do you want parents out there to understand about the research that you've done to at least make them consider thinking about reading or investigating a little more before they give this vaccine to their children?
Sure. So I think the thing that I probably point out most to people when they say, well, you wrote this book, but what are your sources? And a lot of our sources are materials from the FDA, the actual clinical trial documents, which incorporate materials from the manufacturers. It's information from the National Cancer Institute talking about, how HPV is thought to progress from infection to cervical lesions and onward, and how many of those infections and lesions actually spontaneously regress. It's the vast majority of them. Over 90% of HPV infections will resolve on their own within 2 years. Mm-hmm. A lot of people have an HPV infection, they never know it. They're asymptomatic. Mm-hmm. And even the CIN3 lesions, the lesions that are thought to be the most severe, approximately 50% of those regress on their own. Mm-hmm.
Well, in the book you say that there was clinical trial malfeasance. That's a pretty strong statement. What do you mean by that, and what do you have to back that up?
Sure. So there's a lot that we found in the FDA documents that suggests that there were real problems with the clinical trials. Probably the biggest issue, the most obvious issue when you look at it, is that there was never, for the Gardasil clinical trials, there was never a true saline placebo given to anyone. The vast majority of people in the clinical trials received as the control the aluminum adjuvant that's contained in the vaccine. Aluminum is a known neurotoxin. There's lots of science on the toxicity of aluminum. So when they're comparing individuals who received the vaccine and people who received aluminum, you're just saying that the vaccine appears to be as safe as the aluminum, but we know that aluminum has issues. So we coined the term placebo to talk about the false placebos used in the trial. Mm-hmm. There was a small group of children who received something other than aluminum, but it was also not saline. It was everything in the vaccine except the antigen, the virus-like particles, and the aluminum. So it was other ingredients that are concerning for health reasons. Polysorbate 80, sodium borate, which is borax, L-histidine, and yeast. So those aren't inert, benign ingredients either. They raise health concerns.
Mm-hmm. Well, and now, go ahead. I'm sorry.
We also found that, there was something called negative efficacy in a group in the trial. And that means these were women who had HPV infections at the time of the trial and also had indications that they had had prior infections. And they had some real world risk factors like smoking. Mm-hmm. Those women actually had almost a 45% greater chance of developing cervical disease than the unvaccinated women in that group.
Right. And now they're giving them to boys as well, which is a whole other, we could talk about that for another 15 minutes. But, it's such an honor to have you on the show. And I personally thank you for writing the book. I have enjoyed reading it. It's kind of crazy. I just want to end this segment by reading this out of the book. As Nobel laureate Luc Montagnier reminds us in the preface, the Hippocratic Oath is first do no harm. And I think before we take anything and fast track it to our children, we need to ask ourselves the question, are we going to do any harm at all to our children? So thank you so much. A pleasure, and I look forward to speaking with you again.
Thank you so much for having me.
My pleasure. Everyone, stay tuned. We've got Autumn Connolly and Faye Elahi coming up. You're listening to One Life Radio.
Hey, this is Sean Wells of the International Society of Sports Nutrition. One Life Radio is proud to partner with the ISSN. The ISSN is the world's leading scientific organization dedicated to the science of supplements and sports nutrition. For their latest conferences and events, go to the ISSN.org. That's the ISSN.org.
Hi, everyone. This is Bernadette. Do you know why I love Paleo Magazine? Paleo Magazine was founded with the purpose of providing readers with the information they need to live strong, vibrant, healthy lives. They are dedicated to partnering with leaders in the paleo community to spread the knowledge of ancestral health principles without the influence of big pharma or big agriculture. Paleo Magazine. Follow them on Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest, and Instagram, or visit them at paleomagonline.com. That's paleomagonline.com.
Here's the dill pickle. Squatty Potty works. It's awesome. Find yours at your local Bed Bath & Beyond, Amazon, or squattypotty.com. That's squattypotty.com.
Sun Warrior believes that plants provide the cleanest and most powerful foods, rich in antioxidants, vitamins, minerals, enzymes, and phytonutrients. Our bodies crave real foods, especially in this age where we heavily process everything we eat, stripping out all of the benefits and nutrition well before we have a chance to even use them. Illuminate your body, mind, and the planet with Sun Warrior. To learn more, visit them at sunwarrior.com. That's sunwarrior.com.
Did you know pigeons mate for life and are devoted to their families? Their vision is far better than that of humans. They have excellent memories. Their navigational skills are astoundingly complex, and they're able to recognize their own reflection in a puddle or mirror. Eugene Field wrote this tender lullaby. Sleep, little pigeon, and fold your wings, little blue pigeon with velvet eyes. Sleep to the singing of mother birds swinging, swinging the nest where her little one lies. With 8 children of his own, perhaps Mr. Field found in pigeons, with their excellent parenting skills, the same protective, nurturing bond he felt for his own family. This is Ingrid Newkirk with Peter, reminding us it's easy to be kind by seeking help for any injured bird we encounter.